And I've been running a series on sexual violence, rape, sexual abuse in the family, in places of worship, at work, and all of that. And for the month of June, we actually focused on women, and the theme for this series is against our will. And I know that you will agree with me that rape, sexual violence, or sexual abuse is not just a girl woman thing, it is our problem. By this I mean girls, boys, man and woman, it is our problem, and we all have a duty to respond to this and try as much as possible to reduce this menace in our society. In fact, end this menace in our society. And we can't just keep quiet. I'm running this series because we need to have conversation, and then we need to take action. When we have conversations about this and when we take action, we get results. And over the past few weeks, I've had real life people come here to share their experience so that we will know that things like this do occur, and it happens in the family, in the church, in the mosque, at the places of worship. We know that things like this usually occur, and then victims are usually silenced. Cases like this go unreported because, of course, we can't really trust our judicial process. And of course, there's stigmatization. And of course, there's victim shaming and all of that. So this live session or this series is just for us to come together and have a conversation about this, and also provide solution and way forward for us to tackle this in our society. So today, I have a guest. Now, the theme for today is sexual violence must end. I'm sure you agree with me. It has to end because this heinous crime has to come to an end very, very soon. So my guest today is Kingsley Obom-Egbulem. Kingsley is a child and teens counselor and parenting coach. He is a sexual abuse survivor and host of MANHOOD, a radio talk show which aims at redefining fatherhood, masculinity, and raising a new generation of men who will promote respect for women and girls while speaking up against rape and domestic abuse. He is also a member of the Men Against Rape project in Nigeria. So I'll be having him join us right now, and we'll be talking about silence. We'll also be talking about the role of men in all of this. So please, if you can hear me now, can you please send me a request, Kingsley, so that I can add you on the live. Thank you so much for all those who just joined us. Today, we're talking about sexual abuse. I hope you're not tired of talking about this. We need to find a solution to this. So we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep having conversation about it, because conversation plus action will equal results, and we need results in our society. Hi, Tawa. Thanks for joining us. So today I'll be talking to Kingsley. I'm waiting for him to send me a request so that I can add him in this live video. And I'll also like to mention that, so I'll just wait for him to join us. I'm waiting. I also like to note here that, hey, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, I can hear you.
Okay, so good evening and welcome. Good evening and good afternoon to everyone here. I don't know the time zone you're in presently, but hello to everyone, and thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kingsley, for joining us this evening to talk about rape and sexual violence in our society and in the family and everywhere as a whole. So I would like to start by saying this. I read one of your articles online, and I'll quote you from what you said from your article on that on this particular topic. You said,
Okay.
whenever a case of sexual assault is reported in the news and women are kicking, screaming, and protesting, I always get disturbed about the silence of men. I often wonder why men aren't protesting. Every abused woman or girl has at least a father, a brother, a male friend, a colleague, a pastor. So I ask, what is the role of men in ending rape and sexual abuse in our society? how can they end it?
I thought the question is in the article. I thought that was one of the questions in the article. Okay. The first response by men to issues of sexual violence is to be concerned. As a man, just knowing that you are bothered, that this bothers you, it's a starting point. You know, like we say in Nigeria, you need to send, you know. Sometimes a lot of people don't send at all. That is their problem. It's a woman's problem. And it doesn't affect me. It's not my business. So for a start, men should care. Care that somebody has been raped. Care that a woman has been raped. Let it bother you, even if you're helpless. Let it bother you, even if you can't do anything to redress the situation. But just be concerned. Care. That's a starting point. Then ask yourself the next question. What can I do as an individual, as a man, as Kingsley? What can I do? And so when you start to ask that question, ideas will come up. You will realize that you are more than able to make a difference without necessarily spending yourself. First of all, we are all on social media. Do you realize that just putting your picture on your timeline, your DP, and saying, I, James, I, Kingsley, I, Samuel, I detest rape. You don't know how far that could go. That alone goes a long way. Because somebody gets to know that James doesn't tolerate rape. And, so from caring, actually, you start to have ideas on, oh, wow, I can actually do so much. I was telling somebody, I said, if I own a house and I have tenants in the house, and when you come into my house as a male, and part of the clause you're going to sign indicates that if I hear any case of sexual assault in this house, you'll be evicted and your money will not be refunded. That's one. Two. The third one, I, as your landlord, I will go to court. I will be in court. If you're charged to court, I will testify against you. And if I have enough evidence to facilitate your conviction, I will tender it in court. If I have a clause for you to sign before you enter my house, you will know that, hey, man, oh boy, in this my house, my landlord no dey tolerate nonsense. So if you mess up with a lady, then go quit me. You know, if I run a business, and that is my stand, if I run a school and I read a riot act to all the male teachers, including the female teachers, and look, I won't tolerate any complaint of a sexual nature in this school. So what am I trying to say is that we are as powerful as we think we are if we are concerned about the problem. And that is why I am embarking on this, to let men know that it's not enough for you not to rape a woman. It's not enough for you to detest rape. Everybody must know where you stand when it comes to rape. Everybody must know what your attitude is beyond, beyond just saying, I don't like rapists, beyond cursing that rapists will burn in hell. Let's castrate them. No. We need to know what you are going to do next. And so this campaign is about articulating and
Whoa, no.
And it is as simple as taking a stand. It is as simple as communicating that stand. It's as simple as joining a walk. It's as simple as calling the police. It's as simple as telling a friend that, oh boy, I don't tolerate rape as a person. And if you happen to be one of such persons, please stay away from me. So that's basically what it is.
Okay, so in a follow-up to that, I would like to ask, from you've participated in different advocacy from different media platforms. You've even taken to the streets of Lagos to stand against rape, protesting, and challenging men to do this. I would like to ask, what fuels this passion? Is there any underlying factor or predisposition to this that makes you to be so passionate about men standing up against rape in our society?
Well, a lot of factors. My background, um, I was raised in the Catholic Church. And so, right from when I was small, I've been exposed to social entrepreneurship. I've been trained not to be indifferent when it comes to issues that affect my community. Originally, I was going to become a priest, but somehow I stepped out. And one of the things that led to my stepping out was I was sexually abused as a child within the priest, within the missions house. A priest sexually molested me, and that changed my perspective completely about that system. Where I don't want to delve too much into it, but
Yeah, I respect that.
so that was my experience. And even though as a kid I didn't really understand what I was, when you are in church and trying to get you erect so he can play with your genitalia and use his hands to also play with his genitalia. It didn't come across to me as abuse then, but I just realized that the picture just didn't leave my mind. And so when I became a teenager, I began engaging and reading, and I realized, oh, this was actually an abuse. This guy was abusing me, or this guy abused me. But it's history now. But so for me, I decided to tell myself, no, I won't allow this to happen to my children. I won't allow this to happen to children under my watch. And beyond that, also, I won't allow this to happen to anybody under my circle of influence. And above all, I would lead and inspire people to also be part of the move to ensure that we create a safe society for women and children. Now, these were decisions I took without really knowing what I was getting into, without taking any step until I became a journalist. And in 2005, I traveled to Uganda, Kampala. I spent about 8 weeks in Uganda, and one of the places I visited while I was in Uganda was a shelter for abused women and their children. Oh boy, I will never forget that experience for the rest of my life. I mean, until I die. I was granted access into that shelter. Ironically or interestingly, men are not allowed into the place. So I happen to be one of the few men who have been allowed into that shelter, and I saw women who have been abused, who have been sexually, in fact, I don't know traumatized women, women who are escaping violent men and their children. Some of them were even living with HIV. It was the most traumatic experience of my life. I came back. As a matter of fact, I became ill. I took ill, and I got back home. I didn't know what to do about it. This was 2005. I started writing articles because that's all I've known to do. I started writing articles. I wrote quite a couple of articles. Sorry, let me see if I can get the magazine. Yeah, I'm in my study. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
So I started writing articles, and then a friend of mine said, Kingsley, you've written so much. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Yeah,
Manhood. Yes.
exactly. Yeah. So I did this, but it didn't come out until 2009. So because I had internalized so much trauma, I had seen battered women, I've seen battered girls, I've seen raped women in this shelter, and boy, the pictures continue to haunt me. In fact, let me shock you. There was a particular woman who she had a child, and sorry, can I be graphic? Am I allowed?
I mean, we need to talk about these things. We shouldn't shy away from it.
Okay.
So you can go ahead.
Okay. The woman, she got married to, I mean, after having a baby, her vaginal opening became a bit wide. So the husband said he can't enjoy sex with her, that she needs to close it up. So there was this thing they do in their place where they use some herbs, and the woman applied the herbs, and I think it closed, and behold, I think it became too tight for him. And I think she said one of these days she was not in the mood for it, and the man raped her. This is a married man. This is a married woman. But what really happened was, while the woman was breastfeeding and pregnant, the husband was sleeping with women outside, and he got infected with HIV. And so the day that incident happened, the woman actually was infected. And so that was how she came down with HIV. And so she was not only raped, she was infected, and she was a married woman. So that's why I came, her story was captured here, but not in a very, because first of all, nobody knew I was in that shelter. So I needed to protect the lady who allowed me in. And I did this, the painful reality of marital rape, because I couldn't understand how a man could rape his wife. But this was a reality that she was living in. And so that began my turnaround point. That was a paradigm shift for me. So I came back and I told myself, Kingsley, you need to do something. And as a writer, that's my weapon. That's the tool that I have to create the change, or rather to start the change that I want to see. So I did that magazine. It was a blast. In fact, it went round, but I couldn't sustain it because what it took to gather this content was so much. So, but today, the privilege God has given me is that I'm well respected amongst my male friends. Well respected. I have a name that I've built over time. So, leveraging on that influence, I have decided to say, okay, enough is enough. This is our problem as men. This is not the problem of women. No, rape affects women, but it's a problem. Men, it's a man's problem. It's a male problem. If there are no men, if there are no men, there might not be rape. I can assure you. If there are only women on this earth, I don't know how they're going to rape themselves. But if there are only men here, we will still be raping ourselves. Because the stories of boys who are being raped daily indicates that rape is a men's problem. And so, if we don't get involved in the vanguard of this problem, it would not fly. Because you see, if a woman is talking about rape, the question you're going to ask is, so what else will she talk about? So it begins to attract a misogynistic attitude. Haters of women will see a woman talking about rape as, what else would you want? What else would she talk about? I mean, what else? You get the point now. Then sexist males and people who have been raised under this toxic masculinity and all the patriarchal inclinations that we have will start to tell you, if a woman is not talking about gender-based violence, what exactly is she talking about? That's why you see all of them. They don't have anything to do other than talking about men. So my involvement is to create that paradigm shift, is to change the narrative that, look, hey, if we are not messing up with their lives, they will have other things to do. Because the truth is, if you have a woman who is going to work tomorrow to present a paper to a board, to defend a pitch, and all of that, and you molest her this night, what is she going to do tomorrow morning? It will definitely affect her productivity. So we need to own this problem and find a way to solve it. Because the truth remains, if as a man, if you are not moved by the rape of a woman by a man, then I wonder why you're living. Because I feel indicted. Currently, a 3-month-old baby was raped in Nasarawa State, and the guy has been cut. I feel indicted by that incident. I may not know who the guy is, but as a man, that indicts me. If a woman is raped tomorrow, I feel indicted as a man, and that is what drives me. That is what makes me feel. I want to stop feeling ashamed. I want to stop feeling indicted. I want to stop feeling less of a man because my fellow man is violating a woman. I want to stop feeling terrible about this thing. So that is part of what is driving me.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that, and for sharing your story, despite the fact that most men like to keep quiet about this and be silent about this. However, I would like us to talk about child abuse with a focus on boys. I know that UNICEF in 2015 reported that 1 in 10 boys, while 1 in 4 girls. So we can see that there's a difference in, the number of rape or sexual abuse. But I would like you to quickly talk about sexual abuse when it comes to the boy child. Because, a lot of people are saying that we are neglecting the boy child, and it starts from there. So I would like you to talk about the different forms of boy child abuse, and why do boys keep quiet? Is this something that has to do with parenting, or is it something that has to do with ego, or why do they keep quiet? Because I had spoken to someone before that was like, well, I know I was abused, but, like, there's something like, let's just forget about it. Why is it this way?
Well, there's what they call the boy code. The boy code happens to be a set of unwritten codes on which boys are raised. One of those codes says you must not cry and you must not show emotions. So talking about being raped is not masculine. It's feminine. It's boys don't complain. That's part of the code. I have a book coming up.
I have a question for you on that anyways. One of my questions on that your book.
Yeah. So it's the making of abusive men. Now, one of the things that characterize the socialization of boys is the boy code. So, for instance, boys are told that they are better than girls. Take it or leave it. And telling them may not be verbally, but the things we do gives them the impression that they are better than girls. So that's then macho. For you to show that you're macho, you're not a sissy, you need to be able to take pains and not complain. And when a boy is crying, you guys will say, why are you crying like a woman? Uh-huh. So whining, talking about you're being sexually molested, it's not feminine. It's not masculine. So that's why most boys keep that to themselves. However, rape generally, whether of girls or boys, is a hush hush topic. Not everybody want to talk about it. Not everybody. Even most people feel I'm gay. That's why I'm talking about rape.
Oh, really?
That's why I find it convenient to converse. But no, I know very well as a writer, I understand that part of the solutions to a problem is taking it out of the dark. You understand? When a problem is no longer within the cover of darkness, then we're able to understand and deal with it. That's why pornography thrives, because we don't have conversations around pornography. So, because we don't have conversations, and it's all over the place, then people are getting addicted to it, and that is drugs actually. So for us to go beyond the point where boys will come out and talk about their sexual assault experience, we need to have more men come out to share their experience as what happened to them as boys. So it's also part of what we're doing now to say, look, the rape conversation can have a masculine touch to it. You don't have to be a woman to talk about rape. You can talk about rape from the men's perspective. And you see, there's also what you call toxic masculinity. What is that? It tells you that men are supposed to be drunk. They're supposed to grab women. Women are the object of a man's desire. All of these things. He should be reckless, spend whatever he spends, show that once he can make money, then he can have any woman that he wants. So we need to begin to change this narrative. And one of the ways to change this narrative is for men who have, I call them turnaround men, men who have gone through the process of being re-socialized and coming to the fact that, look, this is a dangerous path to tread. If you have gone through this path, you can retrace your steps and become a wholesome man. So then you have dysfunctional male behaviors that are modeled within society. You have your father who is still womanizing at 60. You have your mother and 4 children, all grown-ups, and the man is still pushing gaps. You have a lecturer who is trying to bed his classmates. You have a doctor who is still trying to bed nurses and patients. We see all of those things in the society. And so when young boys see these things, they feel this is the ideal way to behave in the society. So these are some of the issues that makes it difficult for us to address the pain points. And so the more we have these conversations, the more we know, hey, these are taboo, these are wrong. These are wrong values. These are not our way of life. And so we need to change and act differently. Now, coming to the rape of boys, this is how it goes. A boy is raped by a man and by a woman. Now, the rape of boys by a woman, whether it's by a woman or not, it is all abusive. It is traumatic. Some will say it's better to be raped by a woman than to be raped by a man. Whether you're raped by a woman, whether you're raped by a man, it is all traumatic. And so there are the basic ways that a boy can be raped or could be raped. Is one, the female, whoever the female is, could compel or groom him. Of course, grooming takes time. I mean, you buy him gifts, you do all of that, you do all of that. Now, when you create affinity with the boy, you can get him to the point where you suck his penis, or he sucks that is to say, he performs oral sex on you. A lot of boys have been coerced to do that, and therefore, there was a particular case of a teacher who um, groomed a 7-year-old boy to perform oral sex on her. Now, that is one. You also have a case where the woman also performs oral sex on the boy. And depending on how physically developed the boy is, the boy could ejaculate. That is one. Then you have the third one, which is the extreme case now, where the woman actually gets the boy to have intercourse with her. So these are some of the forms where, um, um, you know,
Boy child abuse exists.
yeah, child abuse by a woman. But the most common is when boys are sodomized by bigger males. You could have an 8-year-old boy, a 5-year-old boy, a 3-year-old boy, depending on how unfortunate the case could be. A lot of boys have been anally penetrated by grown men and grown boys. That's one. You could also have a case where you have the bigger boy, the bigger male, compelling the younger boy to perform oral sex on him, and vice versa. And there are cases where also grown men are known to have penetrated the boy via his mouth and ejaculated. So in all of this, one thing is common. It is an anomaly. It is inappropriate. It is traumatic. It is messy, and it doesn't leave the boy the same again. Some boys are known to have become sexually depraved by just that single act, which is against their wish. And so, when there are a lot of grown men, people like my peers, who had these experiences as kids, and many of them have moved on. Many of them have become misogynists because of that, especially the ones who were sexually assaulted by women, aunts, bigger cousins, female teachers. Today, some of the abuses you record are often informed by those ugly experiences.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Was
I
that
also like
too much?
no, it's okay. I mean, we need to talk about this. Like we spoke before we
Okay.
came live. We need to actually
Mm,
have conversations like this. Now that
mm,
we spoke about the boy child abuse, I would like to talk about your forthcoming book. That's The Making of Abusive Men. Remember, I mentioned I was going to ask you a question about that. Now,
yeah.
you in the book, you're going to trace the root of toxic masculinity and wrong
Mm,
socialization of girls and violence against
mm,
women. Now, I'd like you
mm,
to share some of the root causes of this toxic masculinity and how parents unconsciously enforce this traits or behaviors in their children, especially the boys. There's this,
mm,
like you said, I'm better than a girl, I'm this and
mhm.
that. So, how do we parents sometimes consciously they do it, but what are the things
Yeah.
that we do that we might not be paying attention to, but it's feeling a trait or a behavior in that boy child? And by the way, guys, you can drop your questions because we are like 40 minutes into this already.
There's one very thing we do, which I'll just did you realize sometimes when you have a family of 5 children and the fourth is a boy, oftentimes, do you agree with me? Do you get it?
No, I didn't get that. I think
Okay,
there
I
was.
said there are times when you see a family of 5 children. The first four are girls and the last is a boy.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, they actually wanted a male child as the first or second, but they kept having children because they wanted a male child. Do you agree with me?
Mhm.
Do you agree with me?
It happens.
Good. So that's one. Why? Why?
I don't. You share your thoughts on it. I want to hear your thoughts on it.
The reason The reason is the house is not complete without a male child. And so the male child comes in, and the guy knows that, hey, the whole world has been waiting for me. Everybody wanted me. You guys were here, but you were not as important. So I'm here. And so when this boy arrives, usually you don't raise him the way you're raising his elder sisters. His elder sisters are the normal children, but he is the real McCoy. He's the real guy that we've been waiting for. And so the moment he comes in, the father begins to dot around him. The father begins to emphasize, this is the one that will take after me. When I'm gone, you all will be married. This guy will remain here. So they start to indulge, pamper him. And so when this guy, who is the last child, but his elder sisters, they all defer to him, and he marries a lady, you think that lady would be a priority? No. Because this is a guy who the elder sisters have been worshiping him. Even the mom calls him Okomi. In my place, they call him Nnam Eze. They call him all manner of names in adulation. And so you have a 13, 14-year-old who is already being worshipped by his mom, his father, his sisters. His sense of entitlement begins to grow. Already he knows that we are not equal. Even my mother, I'm more important than my mom in this house. I'm better than her. I'm more important than her in this house. So then you have some who take it to the extreme when there are things to discuss. If he's not present, nobody discusses, nobody talks about anything. And so the boy grows out of the house with that mentality. He hits the streets. He's running a show. He's running a house. He's running his own family. He carries it over as a legacy. That's one. I'll also tell you this. There are cultures where if you don't have a male child, you are like a pariah. You are an outcast. Are you aware?
Absolutely.
So, how do you want the ladies in that community to behave? How do you want them to feel? Already, they have accepted it as their lot. So, that's why my book says the making of abusive men and the women they abuse. Because a lot of women have been socialized to accept abuse. Take it or leave it. So that is the beginning of our problem. Now you have female genital mutilation. Why do you circumcise women? And who prescribes female circumcision? Is it not men? It is men. Why? Because you don't have a right to pleasure. You don't have a right to enjoy sex. And so for you to enjoy sex and the pleasure that comes from sex, we have to cut off your clitoris. It's also men. And women are there to hold the hand of the child and support that barbaric act. And then you have polygamy. Now, I don't care what the argument for polygamy is. As far as I'm concerned, it's all about sex. It's all about domination. It's all about inequality. It's all about one man who, whenever he needs to have sex, excuse me, he can't be refused. So the more women he has in his kitty, in his harem, the more he can express himself sexually. That is polygamy for you. Forget whatever you've been told that my half brothers are fantastic. Forget, it's not just about your half brothers. It's about your father who has a high sexual libido and he can't be told no. You get the point now. So that's polygamy for you. So all of these things are pointers that remind the average male child that, hey, come on, this is our thing. It's our thing, and you cannot refuse. I could go on and on. Then you also have this one where a woman can sorry, a man can sow his white oats everywhere. Have you ever seen a situation where a man is being penalized for being promiscuous? Have you seen it before?
The woman is usually the one, like a woman tries it, then the whole world will be.
Yeah, that's it. You are, in fact, the more promiscuous you are as a man, the more prolific you are as a man, sowing your seeds and expressing your fecundity. That is masculinity at work. Some mothers even, I'm told, some mothers even invite, ask your son, you mean it's only one wife you are going to have? No. You need to have more wives. You need to have a second wife. Is it just that's the brainwashing that has gone into the kind of socialization that has produced so many of us as men. So if you've grown with that acculturation, if you've grown with that kind of socialization, what kind of man are you going to become? You are definitely going to end up a dysfunctional man, especially when you find yourself in a society where things like this, people start to kick. Like I've had a guy said, why are women even angry about this rape? If they say if you say no, they won't be raped now. Oh,
So
yeah, yes. But if you look at it, rape is actually a crime. If a woman is being punished for saying no, because you see, the way we've designed sex and male, the male man feels he's entitled, and part of that entitlement is to your body, anytime, any day. And the lady is like, why? So the punishment for that, why? The punishment for saying no to your boss, the punishment for saying no to the lecturer, the punishment for saying no to your peers, the punishment for saying no to the police, the punishment for saying no to the doctor, the punishment for saying no to whoever it is rape. So rape is actually a crime of lack of consent or of no consent. I'm not interested, okay? I'll punish you. That is it. So it's about power also, beyond just sex. It's also about vulnerability. There's this analogy I always share. If a woman is strolling past you, she's wearing a bomb shirt and a spaghetti top, and she's looking very, very, attractive in all her curves, and she's passing by, and you have so many boys on the street there. You'll hear cat calls. They'll be calling her, hey, babe, Havana, hey. The same lady goes back home, changes into a camouflage with a boot, her beret, with her military regalia, and with a pistol, her service pistol. The same woman will pass by and nobody will call her. You understand? So women are raped sometimes because you feel she's vulnerable. You feel, hey, yes, she needs a job. Okay.
I'll take this question, but before then, let me take this comment from Yeti. From time immemorial, it has been a cry for the girl child. I strongly believe it's high time the focus is shifted to the boy child, and that is where saying no to rape should start with. Thank you for that comment. Then Oloyosi said, I had a male classmate. This is a question. I had a male classmate that was abused in school. He was very exposed in secondary school, more interested in female teachers and adult girls. The abuse isn't classified as rape, but eventually led to the guy irregular behavior psychologically. It affects his being and character. How do we manage this situation in boys?
Yeah, I think we've addressed it before. First of all, the boy has to speak up. We need to hear. If nobody knows what you've gone through, it will be difficult to help. That's a critical point.
Sorry to cut you short. Before you go ahead, how can we encourage boys to talk to their parents? What are the different means parents can use to encourage a boy to open up to them?
Someone said, I think it's Frederick Douglass. He said it is easier to raise strong boys, strong children, than wait to repair broken adults. Every man should look at how he was raised. Are you happy? Are you happy the way you were raised as a boy? Are you happy with your childhood? Do you consider your childhood wholesome? Is this something you feel? Are you inspired about how you were raised as a boy? And if you're not, why would you want to perpetuate that kind of childhood? You get my point. Why would you want to remain a dysfunctional man and want to pass it down to your son? So what I think is, if I'm not happy the way I was raised as a boy, common sense demands that I build capacity so I can raise sons who are wholesome, who are better than me. Because see, all of these things we're talking about, it starts with, apart from the sense of entitlement, it's also about emotional, how do I put it now? It's about broken men. It's about men who are emotionally bankrupt. Men who cannot express. Okay, let me give you an idea. You tell somebody, I want to have sex with you, and she says no. How do you know that she is not rejecting you? She just don't want to have sex with you. That's all. You get my point? I don't know if you get what I'm saying. As a male, I have women who admire me. I like them, but I don't want to have sex with them. So we need to get to the point where our boys will understand that no to your sexual advances is different from no to you as a human being. I am not rejecting you as a person, but I don't want to have sex with you. So once we understand that, we can now begin to manage rejection, in quotes, not necessarily as a rejection of ourselves, but as a rejection of your sexual advances. I can say no to you. Even your wife can say no to you. It's not that married people will tell you it's not all the time they want to have sex. Let alone somebody who you're not married to.
So we don't even know at all.
That's it. So for us to revisit how we raise our boys, we need to see the consequences of the boys who were raised yesterday, who have become men today. Because you see, the rapists of yesterday, the rapists of today were boys yesterday. So what do we have now? So the rapists of tomorrow are boys today. So are we engaging them? Who is going to engage them? It is still the responsibility of the parents. But for you to engage them, you need to build capacity. You need to understand how to do that. That's why we're writing the books we're writing. You need to understand that there is a gap. Now, a man who cannot cry, a man who cannot express emotions, a man who is told that anger is better resolved through violence. How do you begin to retrace and flip the code that was used to raise you? Yeah. So you need to flip that script. And who is better? That's better. I always say this, and for me, it's a point of regret. For you to drive a car, you live in the UK or the US. For you to drive a car, you know how tough it is for you to drive a car?
I know what I went through to get my license. I understand.
Good. Do you know that the designers of our system are so warped in their thinking? It's easier to have children than to have a license to drive a car. Does that not bother you?
Your analogy. Okay. Yes, I agree with you. Yes,
For you to
it's actually easy to even get married to a girl child in the north. So
yes. So now we've made it. I'm not saying somebody when I say this, Kingsley, so are you trying to deny us? I say no, 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 no. Even driving, you have a right to drive, but they assume that you will kill more people if we don't check your brain as a driver. But we are killing more people by allowing insane people who have no business having children. We are all having children and raising them the way we like, and these children are turning out to become threats. So I'm just proposing that if we apply the same circumspection, if we apply the same thoroughness, if we apply the same rigor that it takes to acquire a license to having children, I'm sure we won't have some of the madness we have around. Because you see, the rapist does not come from the streets. I hope you know that.
Yes. Just
The
right there
rapist is
next to
from
us.
where? The
From homes.
rapist comes from home. Yeah. And what kind of home does the rapist come from? The rapist come from a home where there are no boundaries, where all things goes, where nobody is actually doing the work of parenting. And so we are back to square one. We're now asking questions. We're now saying, hey, stop rape, stop rape. But the rapist is now on the street. But the guy came from a home. So ultimately, we still need to get back to him. And that is why the Men Against Rape campaign, ultimately, we will be engaging with fathers, we'll be engaging with mothers, we'll be engaging with homes, and everybody who influences the life of a child. Because you see, if we've lost grip of yesterday, we must not lose grip of tomorrow. We must not. So, if you are engaging 200 boys, see it as I am, delisting 200 potential rapists and saving the lives of 200 women. And that's because when you hear that 799 rape cases were recorded, they are not just cases. These are human beings. These are women. These are boys. These are children. And they were raped, assaulted by human beings who are men, and some of them women. So if we can tag this properly, our response will be proper, articulated. And so I've always felt the level of thinking that got us to this problem must increase for us to find the right solutions to it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have like less than 2 minutes. Thank you so much for, spending time with us on our live session today. And I would also like to restate your final words. If we lost grip of yesterday, we should be able to hold ourselves accountable today and also propose solution to this problem. So thank you so much for joining me live on today's session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Bye.
Have a lovely evening. Yes. Bye.
Take care. Yeah.
So thank you so much, guys, for joining me once again today. I'm very grateful. I hope you learned